Hello, this is Philip welcoming you to the 2034th edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper. Our dateline today is the 21st of January 2016. And joining me on the reading team this week are a new team, Ali, John and Caroline, with Colin on the controls. The items that we'll be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. Our local stories this week include Drugs Gang Behind Bars, Boris calls for more talks over Cycle Enfield scheme, and 60% support Cycle Superhighway plans for Borough. First of all, we've got a few special news items this week, and just to remind you that some people will be receiving memory sticks now instead of tapes, and we hope that you're able to use them and it's all going well. If you have any feedback to give us about how we can improve the memory sticks system, then please do call Diane de Jersey, who's our listeners' representative, and her number is 8805 6578. That's 8805 6578. And one other special announcement. If you listened to our notices on last week's broadcast, you'll have heard Malcolm and the team reading a notice about how to find out more about the Sonata service, which is run by the British Wireless for the Blind Fund. And we gave an incorrect phone number, I'm afraid, so don't ring the phone number that was on last week's tape, because you'll get someone who's now rather irate on the end of the phone, rather than the British Wireless for the Blind Fund. And I'll make sure that we bring the correct number for you to ring in time for next week's recording. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, you can phone Diane de Jersey on 8805 6578, and she's your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now Ali is going to read the first item of local news.
5 Albanian drug dealers are behind bars after police discovered thousands of pounds in cash and cocaine at their homes. A 6th member of the gang also faces jail when he is due to be sentenced at a later date. Detectives from the Met's Serious and Organised Crime Command smashed the drugs rings, which operated across North London after a 4-month surveillance operation of the gang members' movements. Mastermind Janet and Kuka of Fox Lane Palmer's Green was arrested, leaving an address in the same street on May 19th last year, when police discovered 11 bags of cocaine as well as £3,100 in cash. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and possession of criminal property when he appeared with 3 other members of the gang at Harrow Crown Court on Friday, and was sentenced to 10 years and 4 months in prison. Appearing with him were Abdul Kopku, 41, of Jules Thorne Avenue, Enfield, and Mentor Muslika, 33, of Cunard Crescent, Winchmore Hill. Police recovered £50,000 in cash at Topku's address, along with high-value watches and a gold South African Krugerrand worth £800. At Muslika's property, they found £12,000 in cash and receipts for high-value goods, including designer handbags, wallets and electrical goods. Both men pleaded guilty to the same charges as Kuka. Topku was jailed for 7 years and 4 months, and Muslika will be sentenced at a later date. 4 other members of the gang were jailed at the same court last year after pleading guilty to possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. They included Jamal Marcano, 21, of Solomon Avenue, Edmonton, who was jailed for 4 years, and Urim Serini, 44, of King Edward's Road, Ponders End, who was given 3 years and 4 months. Hiroshi Tobli, 24, of Cunard Crescent, Winchmore Hill, pleaded guilty to possession of a false identity document and was jailed for 8 months. Detective Constable Liam Hurley from the Met's Serious and Organised Crime Command said this group thought they could operate with impunity. However, they are now facing a lengthy spell behind bars.
The Mayor of London has told one of the borough's MPs that he is halting the miniHolland cycle scheme, but has left council chiefs in the dark about his plans. Boris Johnson has written to Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows saying he had ordered the council to go through another round of discussion with businesses and residents in Palmer's Green. The mayor made his intervention this week after the Conservative MP presented him with the results of his referendum. Last week, Mr Burrows announced that after sending out postcards to 17,000 of his constituents in Palmer's Green, Winchmore Hill, Grange Park and Southgate Green, of the 2,828 returned to him, 75% were opposed to the cycle scheme along Green Lanes. He then demanded a meeting with Mr Johnson, who awarded £30 million to the borough in 2012 after council chiefs impressed City Hall with their vision for the borough. Mr Burrows said last week he would be meeting the mayor to urge him to take back the money earmarked for the improvement works. Mr Johnson, in a letter, told Mr Burrows the scheme will now be stalled while further engagement work is carried out. The mayor said, "We agreed in our discussion it was important for Enfield that the scheme is not moved forward to the next formal approval stage until the borough engages more extensively and intensively with businesses and residents. It is clear that more discussion is crucial." Mr Burrows has told residents that this means all plans are on hold for 2 months. However, a spokesman for Mr Johnson stressed that this had not been formalised and it was more likely to be a period of a few weeks. A spokesman for the Mayor's office told the Advertiser, "This isn't about a change of direction. It's about taking a little more time to bring about the widest consensus. The Mayor and his cycling commissioner remain fully committed to the miniHolland scheme in Enfield." But while City Hall believes the process is on hold for more conversation, the council chiefs behind the scheme insist they have heard nothing about putting a temporary stop to their plans. Daniel Anderson, the council's cabinet member for environment, said, "We are aware of the contents of the letter, but have received no communication from the Mayor of London about halting any part of the approval process for Cycle Enfield, and have made no agreement that we will do so. We are about to make a decision on a revised proposal for the A105 Cycle Enfield scheme. Preliminary analysis indicates this will not only enhance our town centres, but also reduce pressure on our roads, create safer streets, improve air quality for our residents, and create a healthier, more connected community."
Almost 60% of Enfield Independent readers gave their backing to plans for a cycle superhighway in the borough. Transport for London, TfL, gave Enfield Council a £30 million grant to create new designated cycle lanes along the A105 from Palmer's Green to Enfield Town. The move is designed to reduce congestion and improve air quality for people in the borough. But the Save Our Green Lanes campaign group are against the plans because they say it would decimate street parking. They also believe it would remove bus lanes and bus stops, which are actually in place to help cyclists. However, 58% of readers who responded to our online poll said they are in favour of the scheme and do not want to see it scrapped. But a survey by Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows paints a different picture. A total of 75% of people he surveyed gave an overwhelming thumbs down to the proposals. Mr Burrows, who is against the plans, said it will result in increased congestion, worsened bus services and further blight on the high street as businesses struggle to survive. He wants a £30 million grant to be given back to Boris Johnson, who he is meeting with this week. Claire Rogers, a member of cycle group We Support Enfield miniHolland, who did not vote in the consultation, said, "I support the plans to transform the roads to help cyclists, as we have a very serious problem with obesity in the area. In the last 6 months, I have tried to replace as many car journeys as possible with my bike and think the town could benefit from more cycling to help reduce pollution and increase fitness." She added, "If David Burrows succeeds in his plan to take the money back, what does he plan to do instead?"
5 Enfield residents are facing jail for their involvement in the largest burglary in English legal history, following the end of the 2-month-long Hatton Garden dual heist trial last Thursday. 2 other Enfield residents, among the dozen in total charged with various roles in the robbery, entered not guilty pleas, which were accepted by the court. 2 of the ringleaders, Enfield residents Danny Jones and Terry Perkins, had earlier pleaded guilty to the burglary and played key parts in the £13 million raid last Easter. They were part of a gang who spent months planning the burglary at a safe deposit company used by jewellers in central London's Diamond Quarter. They broke into safe deposit boxes brimming with jewels, bullion and cash. Last week, a jury at Woolwich Crown Court found 2 other men guilty of involvement in the raid and convicted Enfield plumber Hugh Doyle of concealing criminal property. Jones and Perkins joined forces with Dartford man Brian Reeder, who was convicted for his role in disposing of gold after the £26 million Brinks Mat raid near Heathrow Airport in 1983. Reeder was cleared, with Kenny Noy of murdering undercover policeman John Fordham, who was investigating the Brinks Mat robbery. Last week, Detective Chief Superintendent Tom Manson of the Met's Organised Crime Command described the ringleaders as dangerous criminals. Jones and Perkins were involved in planning meetings in the run-up to the Hatton Garden raid, and both men worked through 2 nights helping to take an estimated £13 million from 73 security boxes in the vaults of Hatton Garden safe deposit. Police believe Jones of Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park, who has run marathons in extreme climates, managed to climb through the hole the gang drilled 51 centimetres through the vault wall before passing out the contents to Perkins. After the raid, Jones was recorded on undercover police tapes boasting to Perkins of Heen Road, Enfield, about their criminal exploits. The biggest cash robbery in history, and now the biggest Tom, rhyming slang, tomfoolery, for jewellery. History in the effing world, and what a book you could write, effing hell. Perkins turned 67 over the Easter weekend in a case of history repeating itself. On his 35th birthday, he was involved in the Security Express robbery at Shoreditch, which yielded a record-breaking haul of £6 million. However, the gang hit an obstacle at Hatton Garden when a pump they used to get the cabinet containing the deposit boxes failed. Jones and another key gang member, John Kenny Collins, headed to tool shops in Twickenham, southwest London, to buy a replacement. It is thought that Reeder got cold feet when the equipment failed. Despite disabling alarms and CCTV at the deposit company, some of their movements were captured on CCTV. A breakthrough in the investigation came when the flying squad identified Collins's distinctive white Mercedes, and police planted covert surveillance equipment in the cars of Collins and Perkins. Together with mobile phone site evidence and automatic number plate recognition, they began to piece together the evidence. Detective Constable Jamie Day said a key moment came on May the 15th after Collins, Reeder, Jones and Perkins met for drinks and dinner in Islington. On the way home, having had a bit of alcohol, they were a bit more fluid in their discussions, he said, and detectives knew the gang were keen to dispose of their loot. Jones hid precious gemstones and gold in family plots in Edmonton Cemetery, while Perkins paid for his daughter, 35-year-old Terry Robinson, to go on holiday, concealing jewels at her home in Stirling Road, Enfield. Last week, she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to conceal criminal property and will be sentenced in March, together with her sister's partner, Bren Walters, 44, also known as Bren Perkins, from Manor Court, Enfield. Dublin-born Doyle of Riverside Gardens, Enfield, was drawn into the net by Collins, who wanted a discreet spot to move his share of the loot. Doyle, who runs his own plumbing and heating business, gave Collins the key to his workshop at the back of the old Wheatsheaf pub off Windmill Hill, Enfield. Police believe the gang planned to use the workshop, but they did a boot-to-boot transfer in the car park on May the 19th, after Doyle made sure employees had left the workshop. The police swooped minutes later after gang members arrived in Stirling Road, where detectives found bags stashed with jewels. In an undercover recording before the arrests, Jones said, "At least we can hold our heads up that we had a last go."
Detectives have recovered a third of the estimated £13 million of the haul the gang grabbed at Hatton Garden, including loot hidden in 2 plots in Edmonton Cemetery. They uncovered 2 sealed bags containing a large quantity of jewellery, and precious stones hidden at a memorial plot they searched in the cemetery off Church Street last October. A week later, Danny Jones, who has a history of involvement in armed robbery, was allowed out of prison and led police officers to a bag filled with gold and jewellery and envelopes containing precious stones. An earlier search of Jones's home in Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park, yielded face masks, a drill and uncounted money. Police also found a copy of the book Forensics for Dummies and examined Jones's computer, which he had used to search for specific drilling equipment back in 2012. Detectives who searched Terry Perkins' home in Heen Road, Enfield, after his arrest, discovered jewellery and cash along with blue overalls, 5 sets of white fabric gloves, and some euros. The jury of 6 men and 6 women studied CCTV image of Chase Green as John Kenny Collins turned up to talk to Hugh Doyle at his workshop near the old Wheatsheaf pub in Windmill Hill, Enfield, on May the 18th last year. Father of 2 Doyle, who runs Associated Response from the workshop, was seen talking to Collins. A bug in Collins' car recorded him saying he'd get rid of a colleague. "I'll tell him to get a coffee or something," he said. Doyle told the jury he did not want to embarrass the employee as he wanted a private chat with Collins. The following day, just before the loot was transferred, CCTV captured Jones and Collins pulling up at the car park together. Bill Lincoln arrived and the trio walked towards Doyle's workshop. The plumber was seen talking to the men and patted Jones's shoulder as the 3 men walked away from him. Shortly afterwards, Doyle and his employee headed towards a company vehicle. Doyle stopped to check something, and then the duo drove off. The prosecution said he was trying to get employees and his partner, Jenny Fraser, who does company administration, out of the way. He told the court he was not trying to clear the area and took his employee to a lettings agency in Baker Street, Enfield, to collect a cheque and bank it. Ms. Fraser said she had no idea there was anyone around. After the coast was clear, Collins drove his Mercedes into the car park. Another car arrived, and Jones and Lincoln transferred the bags to Collins' car. When Jones and Collins arrived at a house in Stirling Road, Enfield, where Terry Robinson, Perkins' daughter, lived, police knew they could catch them red-handed. Inside the Aladdin's cave, they found 3 bags of jewels, jeweller's equipment, and small bags containing precious stones on the dining room table, a smelting machine, and a bag full of tools. The haul also included 2 rings with price tags of £15,000, Omega, Tag Heuer, Breitling and Rolex watches, rings, earrings, necklaces, bangles and brooches. So far, police have returned 2,400 items worth £3 million to some of the 40 victims and are still sifting through 2,600 items. The whereabouts of the rest, as well as the identity of the mystery man Basil, who let some of the gang into Hatton Garden, remains a mystery.
A woman was cut out of her car and treated for chest injuries, and 8 other people were hurt after a collision involving a bus and car in Enfield town last weekend. Firefighters pulled the woman from a smart car and she was rushed to hospital after the accident in London Road on Saturday morning. A man who was suffering from neck pain was also taken to hospital, a London Ambulance Service spokesman said. 4 ambulance crews and a paramedic treated passengers from the W8 bus, which was travelling from Pickett's Lock, Edmonton, to Chase Farm Hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield. 7 people suffered less serious injuries, also including cuts and bruises, and 5 of them were also taken to hospital. Police closed the road and are investigating the circumstances around the accident, which happened around 7:30 a.m. near the junction with Cecil Road. The LAS's Deputy Director of Operations, Kevin Brown, said, "The first of our crews arrived in just over 3 minutes. They rapidly made an assessment and we declared a significant incident."
CCTV footage taken on the night of a 31-year-old father of 2 disappeared had not been tampered with, a coroner has said. A sealed bag containing footage from the Fox pub in Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, on the night Ambrose Ball went missing, was opened at the inquest into his death last week. The body of Mr. Ball, from Tottenham, was found 3 months after he had disappeared in January 2015. The footage was taken on the night he went missing in the early hours of January the 24th last year, following a car crash. It was shown at the inquest after the sealed bag was opened at North London Coroner's Court on Friday. Coroner Andrew Walker said Mr. Ball's family had feared that footage had been spliced. "We can confirm that's not the case," said Mr. Walker, who viewed the footage together with Mr. Ball's mother, Ruth Lovell, and for other relatives. Further footage of Mr. Ball's late-night visit to the Food Express convenience store, known as Daddy-O's, in Bowes Road, Arnos Grove, was also shown at the inquest. Mr. Walker told the hearing, "There is no better evidence than the footage taken from a camera and sealed in a bag." He said that he wanted to put the family's mind at rest. "This has not been tampered with by anyone, and it has not been altered," he said. Mr. Ball disappeared after his BMW collided with a central reservation in Watermead Way, near the junction with Sedge Road in Tottenham at about 3:10 a.m. One of the wheels came off the car, which came to a halt near Tottenham Marshes. Mr. Ball's body was discovered in the River Lee 3 months later, and the results of a post-mortem examination were inconclusive. The investigating officer, Detective Inspector Sharon Freeman Woods, from Haringey Police, told the inquest, "I'm absolutely satisfied that Ambrose left the public house based on the CCTV taken." She said that Mr. Ball's movements were also traced on automatic number plate recognition and mobile phone cell site data. Mr. Ball's family quizzed her about the timing of missing person appeals put out by the Met Police. They said that the appeals contained errors, including the wrong date of his disappearance, 10 days before he went missing. D.I. Freeman Woods said, "Yes, there were errors, and I do apologise." She told Mr. Ball's family, "I was cross about those errors." The inquest is scheduled to conclude today after Mr. Ball's mother has given evidence.
A man who survived the 9/11 attacks in New York claims he is living in an unsafe home, which he fears could go up in flames at any moment. Michael Lamb, of Cattisfield Road, Enfield, says his privately rented studio flat is full of damp, has cracks in the walls, and no fire alarms. He is currently on housing benefit, but privately rents the flat through the North London Homes, which he claims has not listened to his complaints. The 61-year-old said, "My radiators are filled with oil, and the taps and sockets in my room are too close together. I'm scared the whole place will go up in flames at any moment." He moved into the property, which is split into 5 studio flats, in 2014, but says he is now struggling to cope. He added, "Where is the care? They are exploiting the misery of people in need. We just want a better living standard." Mr. Lamb was born in the UK but moved to New York, where he worked as a stagehand for a theatre show based at the World Trade Center. He was due to perform there until October 2001, but was inside one of the towers when the plane struck. Although he escaped without any physical injuries, he says the mental trauma of what happened left him unable to work, and he now relies on support from the council and charities. The others who live in the converted property, who are all aged over 40, echoed his concerns. Richard Harris, who moved in after his fiancée died, said, "I feel trapped. This is not an acceptable place to live, but I have nowhere else to go. I suffer from depression and can't work, so I don't have enough money for a deposit on another studio flat and have to accept whatever I'm given. Every night I lie awake worrying if the house is going to catch fire or if I'm going to get thrown out." David Gross, the manager of North London Homes, claimed he had never received a complaint about damp from the tenants. He added, "We actually look after all our tenants well. We received a complaint from a tenant at that property about a bed that was broken, and they got a brand new sofa bed delivered the next day. These complaining tenants were homeless before, and we made sure to provide them with good accommodation. We have a waiting list of homeless who are desperate for good accommodation, and if the current tenants are unhappy, they are welcome to leave."
A mum at the head of a road safety campaign for a crossing point to be installed at a busy four-way junction is delighted that council chiefs are taking steps to put her ideas in place. Alison Pang of Parsonage Gardens, Enfield, runs a design company in Enfield and last month launched the bid for a pelican crossing at the intersection of Parsonage Lane, Silver Street and Baker Street to make it safer for children walking to and from the schools in the area. She walks her own 6-year-old daughter, Cornelia, to St Andrew's Primary School in Churchbury Lane on her way to work in Chaseside. After seeing how children are put at risk, she decided action must be taken. And last week she set up a meeting between parents, residents and council chiefs to discuss the practicalities of installing a proper crossing. The meeting went really well, she said. We had a great response from the people who turned out and the council officers. We had the Director of Investment from Enfield Council with one of his team there. Currently, traffic flows in all directions. There is no zebra crossing or pelican crossing. There are only traffic islands in between each lane of traffic, meaning it can take pedestrians a long time to cross the road. But as well as the time it takes, it is the huge danger, said Alison. With so many children on scooters, it is so easy for them to whiz out quickly, and we are all terrified that one day a child will go out in front of a car. With the volume of traffic, it is a difficult junction for drivers to navigate, so they are concentrating on taking their turn to turn right or left, and are rarely looking for small children or for parents pushing buggies. She is pleased that the council had already taken on board the concerns and are in the process of undertaking a feasibility study into setting up a proper, safe crossing point for the children. We will just be happy with a proper, safe crossing, and while we know that this feasibility study could take some time, we are happy that everything seems to be moving forward, she added.
A stabbing victim is still in a serious condition in hospital after being attacked in Enfield Highway in the early hours of Monday, December the 28th. Detectives have just released details of the stabbing and are appealing to anyone who may have witnessed the attack or has any information to get in touch. The 34-year-old victim was attacked from behind and stabbed in the chest in the Green Street area at about 5:30 a.m. Although the victim's phone was taken after it fell out of his pocket, police officers do not know the motive for the attack. The victim was taken by the London Ambulance Service to an East London hospital, where he remains in a serious but stable condition. The suspect is a lone man. There is no further description. Anyone who witnessed anything suspicious or has information that may help the investigation should call detectives from the Enfield Major Crime Unit via 101. Alternatively, to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111.
Thanks very much, Ali. And for those of you listening on tape, we've now reached the end of side 1. And if you're listening on CD or memory stick, we've reached the end of the first track. So if you're on tape, please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2. And if you're on memory stick or CD, click Next Track.